pleasure today to introduce you to my next guest. This is Dr. Yahagi, and this is a very special treat because you're actually leaving today for Houston. You'll be in Japan, and then that's it. You'll be in South Dakota soon.
That's right.
So I'm super excited. Now, I don't know if you all know, but Dr. Yahagi has been a heart surgeon here in Victoria for how many years?
About 13 years.
13 years,
Yes.
but this is a true Renaissance man. We've had the pleasure of visiting before we went live today to talk about all of the amazing things that you've done, but I kind of want to start at the beginning.
Okay.
I want to start with, being born and raised in Japan, and how you made the migration to America, what all of the things that you had done in Japan even before coming to the United States.
Okay.
So can we just talk about being a young boy and
Sure.
where you lived in Japan? We'll
Yeah.
start from the beginning. We'll do your whole life in 30 minutes.
Okay. Well, I was an average, ordinary man, normal, nothing special about myself. And, but I always had an interest in international cultures, languages, and people, and so forth. So at the age of 16, I was an exchange student to Seattle, Washington. And,
Oh, really?
Prior to that, I always wanted to go to Germany. And I wanted to choose between the United States and Germany.
Right.
And the language seems to be a little easier for me to choose English. And at that time, I didn't speak a lot of German or English. But I made it to an exchange program. So I came to a Seattle area and went to high school. Then soon I was finished with the exchange program. So I attended the University of Washington, where I did study at the chemistries and mathematics, which are my both majors.
Right,
So,
chemistry and mathematics. Now, was in Japan, were your family, was your father or your mother inclined?
Well, evidently, I kind of knew what my dream was at that time because my father's background was the CEO of a medical industry and he had the big business. So eventually, I would probably, being a firstborn child, I would be going back to Japan to take over his business.
Right.
So that was my initial intention, and it was his intentions also.
Right, his intention as well. Right, traditionally,
Yeah,
I understand that. So did you have an interest in the medical field to begin with? Because
well, I always wanted to be a doctor, some
Right.
sort of, especially at the surgical, the portion of the
Right.
medicine. It was very fascinating to me. So, yes.
But you weren't a medical doctor. Like, this is one of the things that always intrigues me about you.
Well-
For years, you were an international banker.
Yeah. Well, after that graduation over there, I struggled with the job and so forth, but United States and try to get a job, but employment was so difficult, especially for the foreigners.
Right.
But at the time, also I just got married to my wife, who is the sweetheart for me for the last 37 years.
Yes.
And I had to do something, but in the midst of that, after I got a small job, I got an offer from Japanese banking industry. So we flew both back to Tokyo, Japan, where we had the 1-year-old child at the time.
Wow.
And I was an international banker. I didn't know anything about the economics of being a chemistry major. But I studied it every day and went back between New York and Tokyo. As a matter of fact, our bank's office in New York was in the World Trade Center,
Wow.
unfortunately. But I think everybody from the office was okay from what I hear. But that was back in 1980s, and I was a banker for several years. And I always wanted to be still, just like you said, I wanted to be a doctor. But I didn't have any, money to do such, so it's better decide to have some career before and
Right.
get some money saved, and who knows.
Can we
So,
go a little bit into this timeline?
Okay.
Which is, so you were in the United States in high school. You graduated in the United States?
Yeah.
Okay, and then so you went to university in the United States?
Right.
How old were you when you and April met?
I was 23 years old.
23?
My wife was 19. And we
Yes.
got married about a year later, which was I was 24 and she was 20.
Wow. Okay. All right. Good. And I only asked that because I've always been very curious.
Yeah.
Because you guys have done so much
Well,
together and have had so many adventures. So I just was wondering how how you have put it all together in this timeline. Did she enjoy being in Japan?
yeah, she first she wasn't too sure on new culture, the language and everything, but after she got used to it, she actually didn't want to leave Japan after I graduated from med school in Japan.
Right.
She wanted to stay, but the heart disease is not really prominent in Japan, and I wanted to get into the heart surgery, so
Right.
I wanted to come back to the United States.
That's really interesting. So problems with the heart are really disease that is more prominent in
Yes.
America.
That's correct.
Wow. And not so much in Japan.
Not so much in Japan, that probably lifestyle, diet, and genetics, and all those combinations.
Right.
That Japan is not really prominent with it.
Right.
The heart, the disease number one type of things,
I
rather than
understand.
cancer and things like that. Just like Europe, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Why the heart?
Well, I did when I was, I think I was 14. My father's a friend professor invited me to an operating room in open heart surgery. Be careful, you're gonna pass out and so forth. But I was really interested in with my type A personality.
Right.
I went in there, saw at the open heart surgery, and when the patient is asleep, nothing else moves but the heart.
Right.
And that just got me going.
That was it.
Yeah.
You knew then.
Right.
So you and April have your firstborn child. You're in Japan. You're an international banker.
Actually, we had our daughter here,
Here. Oh,
here
yes,
in the
I'm
United
so
States,
sorry, yes.
but came back to Japan when she was 1 year old.
Right.
So, yeah.
Okay. So you have a 1-year-old.
Yeah.
You're international banking, and now you're studying for med school.
Yeah.
That is incredible.
Right.
See, that's when I say, like,
Right.
I'm like, you say, oh, I'm an ordinary man, and I
Right.
get that, but I'm like, no, you're extraordinary.
Well, I don't know about that, but that was a spell of the moment in the med school too. I mean, there was a chance that the law, Japanese law changed such that if you wanna be a CEO of a medical industry,
Right.
certain places you have to be a medical doctor. So.
Right.
That's why my father talked to me about
Oh,
if you
I
want to take
see.
over my business.
So
you
you're
have to
still
be.
looking into, you're going to be taking over
Right,
your
so it was
father's
kind of
business.
right. So it was kind of spare moment that I wanted to go to medical school right away after
Right.
my banking because I enjoyed the banking so much and finance.
Mm-hmm.
And then it gave me only about 2 months to study for the examination to get into that.
Wow.
So, but fortunately, luckily, I was a chemistry major, science portion. I didn't have any
Yes.
problem. Biology, that's the studying book. I kind of memorized the entire thing in
Right.
2 months, and one of the requirement for the exam was English, so I didn't have a problem with that. So, yeah.
Do you have a photographic memory?
I used to, maybe with my
Right.
age, I don't know.
Well, because behind the scenes, you have, language books that you've written for yourself in French. You're studying German. You're proficient in German as well. So I just was wondering what goes on in Dr. Yahagi's head.
I may
How
have
does it work?
photographic memory if it's a subject that I'm interested in, but
Right.
if, like, say something about my wife's some extra curriculum, then I may not. Let's keep it that way.
I understand. I understand. So for many of us who do know you, in the community, you've always been very, very involved. And of course, your band, Dr. Yahagi and Mended
Yeah.
Hearts. So on top of all of this, you guys, that he's got going on, you're also studying music and becoming proficient in guitar?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. When I started guitar, that was I believe I was 15 or 16
Right.
in Japan, but prior to coming to the United States, and I continued that. My mother bought me an acoustic guitar.
Really?
So we came over here to the United States, and I was in a band with a guy named Eddie Jackson. He's later he became a Queensryche, our bass player in Seattle area.
Yes.
And but me going back to Japan, banking
Right.
career, medical school, I didn't play almost for 25 years, 30 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But then back over here in Victoria, maybe about 7 years ago, I started picking up the guitar again. And there was a heart patient that I wanted to do a benefit concert for the patient. And we got, it was just a solo acoustic performance, but the downtown Victoria area, that one of the theater that we went to played, kind of packed the house one day.
Right.
And Sheriff T. Michael Corner just came to cheer for me, and that was fantastic. And that patient, she's doing really well.
Oh,
So
wow.
I'm very happy about it.
That's
So,
awesome.
yeah.
And then this philanthropic spirit, because I have seen you at so many benefits and so many nonprofit organizations that you've helped to participate in. Tell me a little bit about the path that you've taken when we talk about positive living.
Well, first of all, the non-profit organization and so forth. You know, I do help people in that operating room and you know, post-op patient care and all. But I want to do something personally, something that I can to help the patients and community that's careful that the patient who suffers. So that's always my motivation to be coming back to work to help somebody every day. So, yeah.
And that's been such a huge part of your life and a part of your reputation, you know, locally and I'm sure internationally as well. Definitely a doctor with a heart.
Oh, well,
That's
thank you.
been something. Yes, of course, of course. So I also saw you like in Dancing with the Stars.
Oh, yeah.
Did you do that as well?
That was a spare moment. I didn't know how to take a first step, second step, that type of situations, and I've done that twice on the Dancing with the Stars, and the second one I got to do with my wife, so I had a little more practice time, and she's into dancing, and she took me through. And
Yes. Did she lead or did you lead?
I led.
Oh,
but,
good.
Ended up that we got the judges award, so
Yes.
we were pretty
Yeah,
interested.
I was there. I saw that.
Oh,
I thought
okay,
that was
okay,
Well, no,
okay.
it's okay. I just mean like I just saw that and I was like, what does this man not do?
Well, just you know, just if you're into, if you want to try something, get your heart into it, and you know, just practice hard. And this is something for good cause for it. So.
Right. And going back to the positivity.
Yeah.
Have you always been outgoing? Have you always been positive?
Yes, I am. I am a very optimistic person, and there's always the incentive, motivations. Somewhere, the Victoria that motivates me to do things. So that's. I have always been looking for the fun things and something that I can help people with, and I have always been like that since I was a kid. So
Yes. In your spare time.
yeah, in my spare time.
So how did you get to Victoria? Because now that we're losing you, it's like this is like a farewell tribute interview. Yes, but how did you get here?
I had a job offer after my training from Las Vegas, Los Angeles, Kansas City, and Victoria. And I went to each different interviews and kind of fell in love with the people in Victoria, so that's how I came.
Really? So what was your favorite thing? What are your favorite things about Victoria?
Victoria, good people, weather.
Yes, the weather.
That support system to each other, you know.
Right.
Everybody's friends. Once if you get to know them, you know them for life. So we can mutually trust.
Right. Are you gonna? How do the band members feel?
Well, band members of, I know they're very sad. Myself too. I'm very sad that I'm leaving at the band, but when I come back here for the vacation, we promised we're gonna play.
Right.
And yeah.
So you guys are moving to South Dakota. You're not retiring.
No.
You're gonna continue medicine. So I have to interject this, but I'm kind of bringing you back to Victoria in just a second. What is your next, what is your next adventure? What's going on in South Dakota? What brings you to South Dakota?
South Dakota, recently I got another partner at the Citizens Medical Center, so that gave me a little time to maybe do something different. So I took on an assignment for something called a locum tenant, which you go to different hospitals and cover them when I'm off. And I did that, and we did that. I did it in 3 different hospitals, and all those hospitals asked me to come join them permanently.
Wow.
Yeah, and prior to that, I was looking at some. I had some information from France and German hospitals, and a couple other hospitals in the United States. I had about 7 different
Right.
offers, and narrowed down to 5, then 3 good ones that I didn't want to. And
What were your 3?
South Dakota, Missouri, and East Texas. And just the South Dakota program seems to be something that I was really excited.
Sure.
And I've done operations with them already, and have everything great together. Big program. They really wanted to come to their program. I didn't know anything about South Dakota, this and that, but I really don't care about the weather, surroundings whatsoever, commodities, and expense and stuff like that. I wanted to be someplace that people really wanted me,
Right.
and I wanted to go someplace they really want. I wanted to go.
Right.
Plus, if I can go to some place that I can be very close to my family, where
Right.
they have a close access, all those 3 places that has a close access
Right.
at the airport.
And that's
but
what
this South
we
Dakota
talked
place-
about, right? That
yeah,
was very,
South
very
Dakota.
important to
Yeah.
you to have a better way for everyone to get together, because you have children now that are all throughout the United States.
Right.
So
Sure.
tell me a little bit about family life. Tell me about your
Family life, my wife and I have been married for the last 36 years.
Yes.
I don't know how she put up with me, or I don't know how I put up with her, but it's always an
you
interesting
do.
subject.
Yes.
We have 3 daughters. One's living in Dallas, Texas. She has a grandson whose name is Levi, 7 years old. My firstborn daughter she's a psychiatrist in Dallas. Second one is a store manager for clothing industries.
Yes,
Lives in
retailers.
Portland. Third
Wow.
one's about to be married to a man who's got a company executive in Seattle. So
So you have wedding coming, and
yeah,
you
in
have
October in
Yes.
Portland, we're gonna
in
do it. Yeah.
Portland. Wow. Oh, that's awesome. That's fascinating. Now, when you were traveling throughout the world, were you taking the children with you? Was this something that you were able to do
Well,
with them?
long time ago, what you used to take our kids to anyway until they
Right.
get really old, but we
Right.
didn't really have a chance to, no money, no
Right.
time and so forth, so didn't really have. But the recent that European tour that I
Right.
usually do about a week or 2, every summer I used to go with my wife. So yeah,
To France?
France,
Germany.
Germany, Italy. Well, my second daughter used to live in Italy, so we went to Italy at that time too. So
Was it hard for your parents to let you study abroad?
I'm sure it was, because if my kids were like that, it'll be hard. The child's gonna be away, but at the same time, you gotta understand that's gonna be a tremendous amount of experience.
Right.
And then multiple cultures and languages. That is tremendous asset that you have if you have it in your life.
Right. That's what I was going to say. Would you recommend for parents
You bet.
to let them
That's the
travel
forever asset
internationally?
for the child as much
Right.
as for the parents.
Yes. So what language are you studying now? Are you still
Well, I started out with German because I wrote my book and published in Germany, and presented everything in German. So German's primarily my number 1 foreign language. And then I took some French at the high school, so I kind of resumed that after I came back from the
Right.
book tour, and I went to visit France several times.
Right.
And then Italian, of course, my second child speaks
Right.
Italian, so we speak in Italian.
Together?
And, yeah, and
Yes.
my oldest child speaks French, because she's been to France many times, so we speak in French. And the youngest is really proficient in Germany, so
Right.
we're speaking German.
Oh, wow.
And Dutch.
Right, and
little
Dutch,
Spanish.
yeah. And the little Spanish, just on the side, just a little whimsical Spanish. Do you, when you've decided that you're going to study language, do you prominently talk to your children in that language
Yes.
exclusively? And
Yes.
does that help to generate the skill set?
You bet. I talk German and French mostly at home as much as my wife speaks Japanese, because she lived in Japan, so
Right.
mostly Japanese. But I speak lot of German, French, to make sure that I don't forget what I learned. And then
Right.
also with my kids, I try to force them to speak, and my oldest child, the French, so I speak French and
Right.
practice at the same time.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So I want to hear, let's go back to the book.
A book of,
My ordinary friend.
yeah, always had the, always had a passion for the World War II history,
Right.
especially on German, Japan, Italian side I was born with. And, just we were always kind of looked at the bad side and so forth, but
Right.
not always like that all the time, but there was some true, seriously good feeling towards the good portion with the war
Right.
from Germans and Japanese and the Italians. Again, my grandfather was a soldier in the Second World War II, and that got me interested into it. And German cultures and German the war in Europe, I was very, very interested in. So more than the Pacific Wars, I was interested in the European wars.
Right.
And they got me a lot of history lessons. And then one day I wanted to write a book, the fiction novel about the World War II in Germany. And this is called The Exchange Soldier. That's the name of the book.
The Exchange Shoulder. And
Yes.
is this written in German?
Yeah, it's in both written in German and English.
And in
It's
English, wow.
available in both languages.
Okay.
And this young guy became an officer in Japan, goes to Germany, and promotes the self-defense and so forth to teach
Right.
German soldiers and so forth. Then the war breaks out, and when they find out what's going on behind the Hitler, that he will betray the Hitler and try to do something at the background to help all the innocent people. So,
Right.
and that character, the main character, his name is Shota Yahagi. He has the same last name as I himself because I projected my personality and what
Right.
I wanted to do if I lived in particular era of 1940s.
time, yes.
So you see a lot of my characters and expressions, what I wanted to do if I lived in that, to save the life of a lot of innocent people, just like what I'm doing right now. So
Right.
he's my mirror image in that the 1940s, and let's do things together, which is save a life. So,
Right. Right.
so,
How long did you take for writing this book?
about 4 years.
About 4 years, yeah?
Yeah, produced and the edited and all that stuff in Germany it was done. So,
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So that was edited
And my
there?
publisher doesn't speak any of the English, interesting. So we communicated everything in German. First, it was
Right.
very, very difficult for me, but as I go, I learned intensively German. I spoke nothing but the German at home for a while.
Wow.
And now I'm to a point that I can speak German too.
Perfect.
You know.
Yes. Well, I want to know what you would like to talk about. Because I know it's big for
Okay,
you.
well, maybe the future thing of that. First of all, thank you very much to the community of Victoria here that supported me to do all those fundraising things,
Right.
supported me to do what I want to do to help people. And thank you very much for being my friends, and I really sincerely appreciated the friendship to all the Victorians.
Right.
And but my future is going to be in the South Dakota. I'm going to be working at the medical center over there, and I'll probably going to be myself. React to it at the communities and
Right.
do the same sort of stuff and enjoy
Sure.
the life we're trying to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure to get to visit with you.
Well, thank you for the
and
opportunity.
So the Exchange Soldier.
Yeah.
And we can buy that on Amazon?
Yes,
Oh,
Amazon.com.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, it's been such an honor and
Thank
such a
you.
pleasure to know you throughout these years. What an incredible inspiration that you have been to the community, and you will be greatly, greatly missed.
Well, thank
But
you very
we
much. I appreciate it.
absolutely are excited for you in April for your next adventure.
Well, thank you.
So thank you
Appreciate it.
for being on the show, for being a part of the program.
Thank you very much.
And thank you
Enjoy
guys.
the time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And thank you guys so much for watching Southbridge Street Live.